Okay, so let us start the talk, I suppose. As you know, the theme for this retreat originally it was the Four Noble Truths, and then we sort of took it down to the Noble Eightfold Path because we thought maybe the Four Noble Truths was a bit too much just to kind of focus on the essential aspects, which is the path. And it's interesting in the suttas, when you read the word of the Buddha, you actually find that there are far more suttas on the practice of Buddhism, on what we should do, what we should not do, and how we should live this life compared to the doctrinal things or the theoretical things or all of these things. It's very practical information that you find in the sutta. So I think it's very suitable to talk about the the Noble Eightfold Path. This is what we're going to be doing over the next 9 days or so. So I hope you are not too excited, a little bit excited about that. And then we'll see how we go as we go along here. But today I wanted to just focus on some of the basic aspects of meditation practice. Just to kind of get us started, because on a meditation retreat, obviously, having the background about meditation is very important, because this is what we're going to be doing mostly over the coming 9 days or whatever. So I'm going to start with that. And one of the interesting things about meditation to me is that when you get it right, it is so incredibly simple. There's almost nothing to it. In fact, there is nothing to it at all, because the less you do, the less there is to it, the more easy it is, or the more natural it is, and just occurs all on its own. It's not something that you have to do at all, really. It is an unfolding of the mind. If you just allow things to be, then the mind unfolds according to meditation. It moves towards stillness and all of these kind of things. So it is very, very simple. And some of the biggest problems with meditation practice is that we make it too complicated. We think too much about how we should do it, how we should use our mind. But actually, we shouldn't really be using our mind at all. The opposite, we should be doing the exact opposite. Instead of doing, we should be undoing. And of course, the difficulty with undoing is that it goes so much against the grain of what we normally think about things in the world, and how we achieve things and how we get results in any aspects of life. So for that reason, we have to kind of rethink the idea of meditation. One of the problems, as I mentioned during the guided meditation, is that sometimes when you hear the word meditation, it brings up all kinds of associations about what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. You should watch the breath, and you should let go, and you should focus on metta, and you have all this kind of list of should-do list that you're supposed to, follow. And yet, all that should usually gets in the way. Sometimes we need to undo all of that should. We need to kind of rewind and kind of just get back to some very basic things. And then meditation has more chance of success. So sometimes not even calling it meditation can be very useful. Just calling it relaxation time, or just enjoyment time, and doing nothing time, sometimes can be useful just to change our attitude to what we are doing here. So this is going to be the theme, how we can get back to basics, how we can go back to the beginner's mind, where we have very little ideas about what we are supposed to be doing. This is kind of going to be the theme, if you like, for this little talk about a meditation practice. One of the things that always struck me when I was reading the suttas, in other words, the word of the Buddha, and I was reading the suttas that are most famous for talking about meditation practice, and the two most famous ones, perhaps, could be said to be the Anapanasati Sutta, which is all about mindfulness of breathing. And of course, the other very famous one, which is all about developing the mind, is the Satipatthana Sutta. And Satipatthana is a very broad theme that you find throughout the suttas. And in fact, Anapanasati is just one aspect of the Satipatthana practice. They all belong together. It's really one thing, and it's the cultivation of the mind through meditation practice. Now, one of the things that is very interesting about the Satipatthana Sutta or Anapanasati Sutta is that when you read it, it doesn't really start with the instructions for meditation. It actually starts with how you establish yourself, how you establish the mind prior to meditation practice. And I think we very often forget these things. We forget these kind of initial steps. Yeah, and when we forget those initial steps, then our meditation will suffer as a consequence. Too often we kind of get on with the meditation straight away. We sit down. It's very common for people to just sit down and then start watching the breath straight away, or start doing whatever meditation object they're doing, and just kind of getting on with it, and really forgetting the initial steps, which is establishing the mind in the right way. And one of the most important, I think, of those initial steps to understand properly is the idea that you actually should establish mindfulness before the meditation can begin. Yeah, mindfulness should come first. First, we need to be present. First, we need to be aware. And when that awareness is sufficiently clear and sufficiently present, only then does it make sense to focus it on a particular object. Yeah, so for example, in the Anapanasati Sutta, it says, Satting parimukkang upatapetva, yeah, having established sati mindfulness, parimukkang, in front of you in the present moment. Yeah, and that is, upatapetva is an absolute, which means it has to be done prior to the meditation practice. There's a sequence here of things that we should be doing here. Yeah, so first we should establish mindfulness. The meditation later on uses that mindfulness to take the meditation, to develop the mind even further. Meditation is not really to establish mindfulness. Mindfulness should be established before meditation starts. And this is why translations like the foundations of mindfulness, yeah, the four satipatthanas, sometimes translated into English as the four foundations of mindfulness, it can be very misleading because it gives the idea that you actually practice or you establish mindfulness by satipatthana, by mindfulness of breathing and all of this, but not really. Mindfulness comes first. I just mentioned the Anapanasati Sutta. It says pretty much the same thing in the Satipatthana Sutta. It says that you do the practice satima. Satima means having mindfulness, being mindful. Yeah. So in other words, that is a prerequisite that you should establish prior to the meditation practice. So if we forget these things, then we have a big problem. And the reason we have a big problem is because the mind is basically not ready. And if the mind is not ready, then what's going to happen? You're going to get frustrated. The mind is going to rebel. The mind is going to want to go into the past and the future. The mind is going to want to fantasize about all kinds of stuff. And it's not really it's not going to want to be in the present moment and just enjoy what is here and now. And the reason is simply because there are too many distractions, defilements, if you like, all these kind of things in the mind that makes it very hard to stay in the present moment. So this is really the kind of one of the critical things is this ability to take the practice from the very beginning, take it seriously, bring in the very first elements that the Buddha talks about in the suttas, and then the meditation actually becomes far, far easier as a consequence. So what are these instructions? What is it that we should be doing? And in the long term, of course, what we should be doing, and this is why we are talking about the Noble Eightfold Path. In the long term, what we should do is just to develop all those 8 factors. In particular, we should develop the factors that come before Satipatthana, before Samma-sati. Yeah, in other words, the first 6 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. So if you want to find out what you can do, you should look there and ask yourself, which of these factors do I need to work more on? Yeah, maybe it has something to do with the right view. Surprising how important right view is on the Buddhist path, also in meditation practice. Or maybe it has something to do with right effort, how we use our mind, how we think about things in the world, how we think about other people. Yeah, or it could even be more basic than that. I mean, you know, even practicing ordinary sila, right speech and right action to the full is actually quite challenging here if you want to purify it completely here. So that is the long run, and we'll talk more about that later on this retreat. But now I want to focus on those things that we can do during a single meditation. Yeah, how do we establish the mind in the right way during and just a meditation during this retreat? And one of the first things to be able to give rise to mindfulness is one of the most basic of all the teachings of the Buddha. And maybe because it is so basic, people forget about it. Yeah, sometimes we want to pass by the basic and get on to the maybe more interesting stuff. Yeah, but please don't forget the basic things. The basic things are there for a reason. They're there because they are most powerful. And if we don't kind of look at those basic things and get those sorted out first of all, then there isn't much point in moving on to more, you know, to higher levels, if you like, or whatever you want to call it. It's very important to come back to the basics. And I think a lot of meditators would do really well to come back to the basics again and again and again and strengthen those basic things. And one of these basic teachings is, of course, the very first thing the Buddha tells his disciple after his awakening, and that is the idea of the middle way. Yeah, the middle way, which is the middle between indulgence on the one hand and then the torturing of the body on the other hand. Such an important teaching, yeah. And it is so common to forget this. I think the biggest problem here is not actually the indulgence, because you're sitting down. Okay, maybe sometimes you fantasize a bit. Maybe that is not so ideal. But the biggest problem is actually, for most meditators, in my experience, is going the other way, where you torture yourself too much in meditation practice, and especially at the very beginning, as you sit down, when you want to make yourself peaceful, when you want to relax and everything, how are you going to be able to relax if you are torturing yourself? Can you torture yourself and relax at the same time? Probably not. Yeah, it's not going to be easy. If someone is torturing you and they are, you're kind of on this bench and they are kind of, putting matchsticks under your fingernails, or they are doing kind of stuff, it's very hard to relax at that particular time. So if we're going to be able to really relax and really enjoy the present moment, this is the critical thing, to be able to enjoy the present moment. Yeah, this is like a higher kind of enjoyment, the enjoyment that leads us out of the enjoyment of the sensual world. It's so important that we enjoy these things, and that can only happen if you relax, especially in the beginning. If you relax and you don't torture yourself, you are at ease. Yeah. Pasu is the Pali word. Pasu means like relaxed, comfortable, at ease. And the meditations are always called the Pasu. One word for them is the Pasu Vihara. Vihara is like a dwelling. Yeah, in other words, meditation is a kind of dwelling. It's a dwelling in comfort, a dwelling in ease. That's what meditation is. So please don't. I find it is wrong, especially for early meditators who are starting out on the path. I think it is not very useful to sit with pain and sit with problems. Make sure you are at ease. Whatever posture you feel at ease in. Of course, cross-legged is perfectly fine, but many people in the modern world may find cross-legged postures difficult. So vary a little bit. Yeah? Sit cross-legged for a while, then sit leaning against something for a while, then lie down if you like for a while, or sit on a nice comfortable chair for a while. And whatever works, whatever kind of helps you to give rise to mindfulness, then I think you are on the right track. And sometimes even if you do fall asleep a little bit in the beginning because you're too comfortable, as long as it allows you to relax, and then you kind of go gradually beyond that tiredness, then eventually come out on the other side, then everything is much better as a consequence. So this is so important. And this is the first benefit of that middle way, that it actually enables you to relax. You cannot really relax without having comfort in the body. I don't mean perfect comfort. I don't mean 100% because that's impossible, but a relatively high degree of ease, at the very least ease in the body. Not indulgence, perhaps, but ease in the body. And it has also an additional benefit. And this is, of course, what we are trying to do on the path of meditation, is to develop the mind. And to develop the mind, really, we want to get the body out of the way. The body is something which is really has no purpose, really, as far as meditation is concerned. We want to go beyond that. Because when you go beyond the body, that's where it allows you to go into very deep states of samadhi. So we can maybe sometimes use the body in certain ways if we want to, but ideally we just want to go beyond it so we can go deep in meditation, experience real joy and happiness. And the only way you're going to be able to go beyond the body is if you're not interested in the body. You don't want to have any interest in what is in this physical form. And the two kinds of interest in the body, one is the interest that you have when you indulge, because the body gives you a kind of pleasure. Of course, remember that the pleasure you get through the body, through any of the senses, in the end, it is inferior to the happiness and joy you can find in meditation practice. But that is the first reason. But the other reason why there is interest in the body is because it is painful. It is just uncomfortable. You're not at ease. You are torturing yourself too much. You haven't really understood this idea of the middle way. Because when the body is painful, what happens is the mind goes to the body, because the mind is interested in the body. It wants to get rid of the pain, rid of the discomfort, and all of that. And so it has an interest in the body from the mind. And there's no way you're going to be able to let go of the body then. This is especially important in the beginning. As your mindfulness gets established, it is possible to kind of bear with a little bit more pain, because it becomes more an object. You're not so involved with it. But generally speaking, I would recommend you to skip the entire pain stage and go straight to the joy of meditation instead. There's no real need to go through the pain. The reason why we would investigate pain is actually to overcome it. It doesn't really have any purpose beyond that, except maybe after samadhi, in which case there might be some reason for investigating this. So this is the very first thing, to remember this idea of the middle way, just allowing things, not getting rid of the body, if you like, going beyond it, neither indulging it nor having pain in the body. And I would always say, if you're going to err a little bit on the side of indulgence. Don't err on the side of pain, because it's going to be much more disruptive in the long run, I think, than indulging a little bit. So that is number one. The second thing to remember is the idea of being passive in meditation and allowing meditation to unfold. Understanding it as a process that kind of happens on its own. And again, this comes straight from the sutras. I mean, of course, there are many meditation teachers who teach like this, and I've always found this a very nice way of meditating, just allowing things to unfold, because it is so unforced, it is so natural, it is so easy. It is nothing that you have to do. You can really, really relax if you get this right. And it's kind of so unforced and pleasant in a way. And of course, the Buddha also, in a sense, teaches exactly like that. And one of my favorite suttas on meditation, apart from the Anapanasati Sutta and Satipatthana Sutta, is a sutta which is really repeated in many, many places across the Pali Canon, but it is found in the Anguttara Nikaya, the numerical discourses, in the tenth, the second sutta. It's called the Caitanya Sutra. And this sutta, it shows the progress of meditation. It shows how you progress through the many kinds of feelings that we have in meditation, through the peace, through the samadhi, and all of these kind of things. But it starts out at the very beginning. It starts out with sila, and from the sila comes the non-regret. From the non-regret comes the pamudja, which is a gladness or a kind of joy in the mind. And then it goes all the way to liberation from there. It's a very beautiful sutta. And one of the remarkable things that it says in the sutta. Yeah, and this is taking you all the way to liberation from the very beginning. Yeah? One of the amazing things it says that to move from one step to the other one, to move from non-regret to gladness, to move from gladness to joy, from joy to tranquility, tranquility to happiness, happiness to samadhi, samadhi to seeing things according to reality, to make each one of these steps. The Buddha says, na Caitanya Karaniya, which means this cannot be done by an act of will. This cannot be done by an act of intention. Yeah. So, in other words, all the progress in meditation practice is not a matter of intention. It is not a matter of applying the will or doing anything. Yeah. And then the Buddha says it is according to the Dhamma, Dhammata, he says, and Dhammata means according to nature, yeah, according to reality, that this process happens automatically as long as you put the foundation stones into place. Once the foundation stones are in place, then this whole process happens by itself. Na Caitanya Karaniya. So it's so clear, yeah, right there in the middle of the suttas. You don't really need to do anything. Yeah, in fact, if you do something, you get in the way, and the reason why you get in the way is because if things are supposed to happen according to nature, and you try to kind of make nature happen, yeah, if you make nature happen, you destroy it, yeah, you damage it, it doesn't work. And I love that little simile, which is you may sometimes hear, if you have you may have you plant the plant, yeah, and you put the seed in the ground, and then you water the seed, and nothing happens on the first day, and you keep on watering the seed, and nothing happens on the second day, yeah, and then on the third day, finally, you have a little sprout, little kind of thing coming out of the ground, tiny, and then after a few more days, you start to get impatient, yeah. And then you think, okay, I'm going to help this little plant to grow a bit faster. So you grab the plant and then you pull it to make the growing happen faster. Yeah, not recommended, right? It's not a way to make a plant grow, to pull it, because, whoops.
We can still hear and see you, so you're all right.
Yeah, okay. Yes. Something happened on this side. I'm not sure what happened on this side. So anyway, I'm seeing something funny coming on my screen. So I can see. That's good. I can see a funny screen. So okay, so I'll just carry on then. And of course, if you try to pull a plant like that, you just destroy it, because nature has to take its course. Yeah, the plant has to grow at its own speed. And otherwise, you just pull it apart, and the whole thing gets destroyed. And then you get really disappointed because the plant doesn't actually do what it's supposed to do. And meditation is a bit like that. You have to allow it to unfold according to nature. And this is what this sutta says. So you have to sit back, wait for things to happen. And if nothing really happens, then the reason is not because something has gone wrong. The reason is because the foundations, the basis for meditation hasn't really been put into place yet. And what this sutta makes abundantly clear is that that foundation, that basis, is all to do with sila, with the other aspects of the Noble Eightfold Path. We have to get those into working here. But what can we do to, again, coming back to our meditation on this meditation retreat, not trying to talk too much about the Noble Eightfold Path quite yet. What can we do to enhance our ability just to allow things to go according to nature? Yeah, what are some of the tricks that we can use? And one of the tricks, again, as I try to say during my talk, my guided meditation, is to remember that sometimes the habits of the words that we use, like meditation or whatever it is, are can be very disturbing, because they bring with them all kinds of associations. And sometimes what we need to do is to think about meditation in a new way. So I'm going to present you with some new ways of thinking about meditation, so that you maybe can get into the right kind of framework, the right frame of mind to be able to enjoy this more, let go of some of the old ideas that may actually block you from going further here. And one of the ideas that I have been using recently, and I mentioned this during the guided meditation as well, is the idea of imagining yourself, coming back from work. You are really tired, you've had a long day, and what do you want to do? What you want to do is just sit down and have a rest, and then you maybe sit down, as I mentioned before, in your favorite armchair or whatever, where you can, you feel really comfortable and really at ease, and then you close your eyes because you're tired. And what do you do at that point? What do you do when you come back from a long day and you just want to rest and you just close your eyes? What do you think of? Do you try to control your mind at that point? Do you try to think of something in particular? Do you try to kind of throw out the defilements and, oh no, I can't think about that? Not really, right? When you are tired like that and you close your eyes, what you normally do is that you just allow the mind to run. And the reason why you allow the mind to run is because you realize all of this controlling, all of the forced attention that you have been using during the day, that is actually what made you tired in the first place. So now you want to do the opposite. Instead of forcing your attention onto something, you just want to be, you just want to relax, you just want to accept yourself for who you are. And that is what you're doing in that armchair. You're not doing anything at all. You're just allowing the mind to do its own thing. And this is very similar to what we are trying to do in meditation practice, trying to allow the mind to be here. There's only one difference. And the only difference is that when you sit down in that armchair, you are usually really tired. You are exhausted from a long day. But hopefully when you sit down meditation, the idea is the opposite. We want to overcome that tiredness. So we may not even have that tiredness in the beginning here. So all we want to do is to use the same idea of letting go, the same idea of allowing things to be, but actually keeping the mindfulness, keeping the presence of the mind without losing that. That is the only difference. But the general idea is the same. And if it does lead to tiredness in the beginning, if you do feel that you are nodding off or, that whatever, so be it. It doesn't matter so much. Please allow that, because very often it is part of the process that you have to go through because the mind is tired. And then if the foundation is right, then gradually the brightness will return to the mind and it will come back again. And then you will be ready to carry on with your meditation object. I can tell you for sure, it is so common in the world of meditation. It is so common among the best meditators that I know, some of the very best ones, that after a long time, a lot of work, it's very common to start nodding a little bit or even dozing off. And this is not really a secret at all. This is just the way things are. So if you do that, you are in extremely good company. This is what the whole world does. One of the most famous people who did this is the Venerable Mahamoggallana, one of the Buddha's two chief disciples. And what did he do? He was nodding away, and then the Buddha came to him and gave him this beautiful discourse on how to overcome the tiredness. And maybe actually we should look at that discourse on one of these retreats, maybe not this one, but at some point. So if you nod off, it means you could be the next Mahamoggallana and you could still be nodding off. So it's not a big problem. You don't have to feel too bad about that if you are on the way to become the Mahamoggallana, one of the great chief disciples of the Buddha. So this is the first way of thinking about meditation practice. Imagine yourself really relaxing, like in an armchair after coming back from work. Another way that you can use, and occasionally I hear people using this, is the idea of what happens as you are falling asleep. When you go to bed at night, what do you do when you fall asleep? And what you do when you fall asleep is to let go. So it is a similar kind of process that happens in meditation practice. We allow everything to be. Imagine yourself lying in the bed, moving towards getting very close to falling asleep. And what is it that happens in that period? You're not really trying to do anything. You're not trying to think about anything. You're not doing anything. you're kind of just lying there waiting for the process to happen. Yeah, and again, very similar to what happens in meditation, just waiting for the process to unfold. Yeah, again, the only difference here again is that, of course, in one of them you want to stay aware, in the other one you obviously lose that awareness. But one of the ways that I like the most to be able to let go and just to enjoy the present moment without doing anything is actually to use a little bit of death contemplation. Because what is fascinating about the idea of dying to me is that it is very similar to meditation practice. Yeah, if you think about what happens when you are dying, is that you are basically you are lying there, you are waiting for death to happen. But in many ways, it is a very powerful moment, because when you are about to die, one of the things that is so interesting about it is that you know you're going to have to give up the world. Everything in the world is going to have to go. So it is a very powerful moment of renunciation. Yeah, especially someone who has practiced maybe a spiritual teaching for a long time, or is a skilled meditator, or who just is a very good person in general. Yeah, when they lie down, they will be able to let go. And sometimes you can see that in people. You see people who die well, they actually do let go, and then they are really relaxed in the last process, and they become an inspiration for other people because they are so peaceful in those last moments before they die. I don't know if you have seen that, any of you, but it's very beautiful when you see that. And the reason why they do that is because they know they cannot hold on to this world. It's a powerful moment of letting go, and they understand that. And in that sense, it is very much exactly what we're trying to do in meditation practice. Yeah, in meditation practice, we also want to let go of the world. This is kind of the point. And one of the biggest obstacles for us in letting go of the world is our attachments to the world, obviously. Yeah, attachments are obviously a big obstacle for letting go, because that's exactly the opposite of letting go. So to be able to deal with that attachment, and this is a very kind of found basic way of dealing with all attachments across the board in one particular go. You can use that death contemplation. Yeah, just to remind yourself of the uncertainty of life. Remind yourself, are you ready to die now? Yeah, and if you are ready to die now, well then bang, you really do let go, because you know that death could be just around the corner. So you bring up that perception of death. You bring up that perception of being ready to die at any time. Or you do a contemplation, perhaps, maybe of even being on your deathbed and then going through the process, yeah, what it means to die on your deathbed and the gradual letting go of the world that unfolds on that deathbed. You can go through that process as well. And this can be maybe a preliminary thing that you do in a meditation if you want to. And then if that works, because it is so similar to what happens in meditation, it will give you a very solid foundation for mindfulness and a very solid foundation for taking your meditation forward and having more success, I suppose. Yeah, we're staying with the breath and all of these other things that we're trying to do. So see if that works. It's fascinating how all of these things are really so integrated with each other, because attachment to the world is really a very big one. Well, I think one of the mistakes that we sometimes do in meditation, we talk about, for example, sensual desire, the sensual pleasures of the world. And we are very worried if we think about, food in our meditation. Oh no, I'm thinking about food. That's terrible, sensual pleasures. Or sometimes you may think, some people think about sex in the meditation, for example. Yeah, it's kind of very common fantasies that arise. And of course, sometimes these things can be very distracting. But the problem really, the problem behind all of this is our general attachment to the world, which is very, very broad. Yeah, it includes basically a delight in this existence, in this world here. And sometimes I think rather than worry too much if you are fantasizing a little bit about food, yeah, it's not a big deal and it's fairly easy to overcome. Rather than worrying too much about that, worry more about this big picture, the fact that we're holding on to this whole world, yeah? And the death contemplation is one of those powerful things that can kind of overcome all of these things in one go. You don't have to focus so much on individual things. You can actually overcome the whole range of sensory objects and sensory happiness is pretty much in one go by thinking like that. So I think I consider it a very, can be, if you use it rightly, a very powerful way of dealing with the mind not being mindful enough. So these are some of the things I would recommend you to try. I should maybe also say very briefly that at an early stage in your meditation, if you find that you have some ill will, perhaps you sit down and you can see that there is some negativity in the mind, a bit of ill will, a bit of resentment about something. Sometimes these things happen. It happens to everyone. It's not you don't have to judge yourself in a bad way or anything like that. But I would recommend you to deal with that before you kind of do anything else in your meditation. Yeah, do a bit of just reminding yourself of people are just people. People do stupid things. They can't really help themselves. They are programmed to live in a certain way and do things in a certain way, and then forgive them for whatever is going on. And with that forgiveness comes the letting go of ill will, resentment, negativity, usually. So deal with that at the beginning of the meditation, because otherwise it will be an obstacle that you carry with you. The same thing with powerful desires that you may bring with you, yeah, that lead to a lot of restlessness and agitation. So you deal with those powerful desires first of all, in whatever you need to do, and then you come back to your meditation cushion afterwards. So this is the starting point in meditation, yeah. And then if we get these things right, then mindfulness starts to come about as a consequence. And you should really be able, what the ideal here is to have a mindfulness that is very natural and easy. Yeah, not a mindfulness that is forced, not a mindfulness that is tense, that we can't really relax properly, yeah, but an easy, natural mindfulness where you are actually enjoying the idea, enjoying the awareness, enjoying the present moment, because it actually is really easeful and relaxed. And the idea which I learned from Ajahn Brahmali, the idea of make the present moment the pleasant moment, because when the present moment is pleasant, it is very easy to be mindful, because you want to be here. It's pleasant. Where else are you going to be? Why be in a kind of hypothetical future or past if the present moment is nice? No, just stay here in the present moment instead. So make it pleasant in this way, and then mindfulness comes about as a consequence. And then if you are able to give rise to mindfulness, that is where meditation really starts. Yeah, I'm sorry to say, but you haven't really been meditating yet. Yeah, this now that it actually begins. All of this other stuff is like the preliminary work. So I hope you're not too disappointed with that. You have to do the preliminary stuff anyway. So I hope that's okay. So you do all these preliminary things, and now the meditation starts. This is what the Buddha calls meditation. Yeah, when mindfulness is established, then you start watching the breath. Then you start doing the metta bhavana, the loving kindness meditation. Then you start doing the satipatthanas, like contemplating the body or whatever it is that you prefer to do. Yeah, that is where meditation really begins. And so now you can use the breath and all these kind of things. And now, just to take it a little bit further, I want to kind of bring this a little bit more to a proper conclusion. One of the next things then, if you're able to do that, if you're able to do this much, congratulations. Yeah, it is already really just to be able to stay with the breath for long periods of time and just enjoy the breathing meditation. Already, it's a remarkable success in meditation. It means that you have understood a lot about the beauty of silence and peace and tranquility and all of these kind of things. But ideally, we want to take it even further. Ideally, you want to take it so that you can have a bit of joy as well in the meditation practice. Yeah, this is one of the things that we are really kind of not aiming for is always dangerous to say, because it means that you start thinking about it, but it's something at the back of your mind that you know comes on the path of meditation. Yeah, the powerful joy, the powerful tranquility, and all of these kind of things. And so we need some sort of support sometimes to enable us, to kind of guide us towards the joy. You're maybe staying with the breath for a long period of time. Sometimes the joy comes by itself. Yeah, if you are an experienced meditator, the joy comes all by itself. At other times, it may not come. It's kind of just staying with the breath, staying with the breath. And if the joy doesn't come, then eventually you're going to lose interest. Yeah, so there comes a point when you have to guide your mind a little bit towards experiencing the joy and the tranquility. And there's a number of ways to do that. And there's a number of ways discussed in the suttas by the Buddha. And they're called things like the Silanusati and Chaganusati. And these are very valuable ways of using your mind at this point. Silanusati means the recollection of your good conduct. Yeah. And in your meditation, you can actually do this. It doesn't mean that you have to think about all the good things that you are doing. It doesn't mean you have to sit down and count, and have a sheet and kind of write it all down. But sometimes it's much more simple than that. Sometimes it's very basic. It's just the feeling inside, that, I'm living a good life. I'm doing my best to be kind, to be a good person. It's this feeling that you are you are basically a good person, a feeling inside of contentment about how you live, how you think, how you treat other people, how you treat yourself, and all of these kind of things. And sometimes that's enough to feel a sense of joy, because you know deep down that you're living in a good way. And so this is really all there is to it. It's just that this reminding yourself, actually, I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing well. Wow, isn't that marvelous? And then you feel good about yourself. And this is such an important thing to be able to do. We are often in this world, we are so self-critical, always trying to correct ourselves, make ourselves better. But there's also so much beauty to be seen in people around the world, and especially in people who are practicing a Buddhist path. And I'm absolutely sure that's true for all of you on this retreat. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. Bad people don't go on retreats. Normally, if I have an audience I can talk to, usually I ask people, how many people here are bad people? And how many people raise their hands? Well, usually 0 people raise their hands. That's usually the way it goes. And the reason is not just because it's silly. The reason is also because there is some truth to that. In an audience of people who practice the precepts and who live well, they are just not bad people. So there's a lot of beauty to be seen in each one of us. And please sometimes tune into that. Remember that, see it, and feel a sense of joy. This is the right kind of joy. This is the spiritual joy recommended by the Buddha, and it will only lead you forward on the path. Only have positive outcomes. So this is one way of doing this, giving rise to joy. There are many other simple ways of doing it. One of the simple ways is, as you are watching your breath, is the attitude that you have towards that breath. And the attitude can be one of, breath is really kind of boring. It's not really exciting. And if you think like that, it won't be long before your meditation comes to a halt. Another way of thinking about the breath is to have kind of a metta, loving kindness towards your breath, seeing your breath as a friend, seeing your breath as a supporter, someone who has always been there, helping you throughout life, always kind of sustaining you, And now your breath is not only sustaining you, but it's taking you, helping you on this marvelous journey of meditation practice, helping you enjoy the present moment, helping you to move forward into some very exciting things. This is for me, one of the most marvelous things about the spiritual life, is that it's like this adventure. We're going on this adventure, we don't know where. It's adventure of tranquility and bliss and happiness and reduction in suffering and increase in wisdom and seeing things according to reality. I mean, isn't that exciting? To me, if there's anything exciting in the world, it is this. This is supremely exciting. People try to find exciting things and desirable things in the world, but this kind of beats everything by a massive amount. It is just so much more interesting and exciting than anything else. And when if people think that being a monk or a nun or a serious practitioner is boring, it is exactly the opposite. It is amazing adventure. But of course, it takes that commitment. And here you have this friend called your breath, who you are taking on this adventure. It's like your Sherpa. Yeah, your Sherpa when you climbing Mount Everest, you need one of those local Sherpas to help you. And your breath is like your Sherpa. It's kind of carrying your weight and he's doing all this work for you. And now he's helping you to scale new heights. You can scale the heights of Samadhi, so you can see the landscape below for the first time with clarity, understand the reality of existence, understand the reality of the sensual world. Wow, so cool, yeah, so exciting, so marvelous, so happy, so... What else do people want to do here? Yeah, I don't get it. I think this, to me, this is it. This is the meaning of life. This is what life is about. Anything else, just to be honest with you, it sucks in comparison. Yeah, this is what this is what really we should all be. A lot of people, I think, yeah, I can't say everybody should be doing it, but sometimes that's what it feels like. Yeah. So these are some of the ways of developing that joy. Yeah. Bringing up a bit of metta at that time, and you can develop that metta in different ways, or you can recall your just your kindness or generosity very briefly. There are other ways as well, which I probably won't get into now. And then when these things start to happen, the joy, the happiness starts to happen, then you are really on the highway to, to all of these wonderful things. And then you will going to be firmly attached to meditation. Yeah, is it bad to be attached to meditation? It depends a bit on how you are attached, but if you are attached in the right way, it is not bad. It's like being attached to sila, attached to morality. Is it bad? If generally speaking, it's not bad, except maybe if you are attached in the wrong way. Yeah, but a bit of attachment to sila is good. A bit of attachment to meditation is good. Why? Because it encourages you. It makes you move in the right direction. It makes you go even deeper. It makes you practice this path. But you are attached with wisdom. You are attached in such a way that it doesn't block your progress on the path. Okay, so that is a little talk to you about meditation practice.